Hello, I'm Pat, a volunteer with the Martin County Historical Society. We're happy to welcome you today for our interview with Clarence Biggs. He is a well-known retired educator in Martin County he's just a really good man. He has distinguished himself in the field of education, both at public school level and at Martin Community College. He's provided his leadership and educational skills freely to make progress with students and adults in Martin County, and we're glad to have him today share a little bit of light on his early experiences. Hello, Clarence. Welcome to have you today.
Thank you, Drew. Happy to join you.
Okay, we feel like he has distinguished himself as a citizen in Martin County and beyond because of his education as a professional, his work in the field of education, and his willingness to give back to this county of Martin, his home county. Tell us a little bit about your early years at Hayes School.
Well, I went to Hayes when I was a student in high school, Patsy. I graduated in 1958 and went off to undergraduate school just after graduation. And while I'm at this particular point in education, I might say too that after finishing my undergraduate work, I came back to Hayes School to teach. And this was a rewarding experience for me because being from the county, seeing some of the needs of the county, I felt the need to come back and try to give something back to my county. And I smile sometimes when I say that because Mr. J.C. Manning was our superintendent at that time. And he made a comment that sort of excited me a little bit. He wanted to know if I was coming back to Martin County to work because I could make more money in places like New York or Baltimore, places like that. But I just wanted to come back to Martin County to give something back since I know the people here. I grew up here and I saw some of the needs I wanted to address as an educator.
That's certainly admirable, and we think that you've provided the leadership to be successful in all those areas of your interests. What did you teach at Hayes School?
I taught biology, chemistry, and physics at Hayes School. I have a degree in science, but I also have a minor in mathematics, so there were times when I'd also teach math along with my science requirements.
Okay, and then after how many years? Let's see, in 58 you graduated from Hayes, and in 62 you taught science and math at Hayes.
Right, that is correct.
And then in 68 you moved over to Martin Community College as a financial aid and registrar.
That's right. That was an interesting move because at that time Mr. Gene Rogers was superintendent, and I had an opportunity to work part-time with Martin Technical Institute at that time. So I decided to work part-time in the beginning, and then I decided to look at full-time employment there. I wanted to work year-round, really, because at high school I was working, let's say, 9.5 months a year, but I could not work full-time for 12 months. So when we started, I just wanted to look at something full-time, and I came to the college as registrar and financial aid director. And shortly after that, I was moved to director of student personnel, and after the name started changing for administrative positions, I was promoted to Dean of Student Services.
That provides you with a lot of contact with students.
Exactly.
And this seems to be the underlying theme of your expertise and your leadership. Tell me how you recruited students and expanded these programs.
Well, the first thing I wanted to do after coming to the college, Pastor, was to establish rapport with the high school in Martin County. At that time, by the way, we were serving 3 counties: Martin County, Bertie County, and parts of Washington County. So our mission at that time was to get out after school hours and at night and on weekends and contact potential students, talk with their parents, and let them know what we had to offer and get them to come to us for the educational training at that time. This was interesting because, as you might know, the community college system funds its institutions based on what we call FTE, full-time equivalent. And the more students we enrolled, the higher our budget would be. So we had an interesting challenge to get out and to recruit students in Martin County, to go over to Bertie County, and also down to Washington County. And it's kind of interesting because I'd go to the counselors. At that time, Ms. Chris Farry was a counselor at Williamson High School, and I think Mrs. Jean Stevens was down Janesville. And we'd go down to these schools and get a list of all the seniors and I spent many afternoons riding them down dusty dirt roads and city streets, talking with students and talking with their parents to let them know what we had to offer at the community college. But by the way, it was a technical institute at that time. And this might excite you too, Pastor. We had only 94 students during my first year. So I really had a challenge to get this enrollment up so I could keep a job.
You think personal contacts influenced their decision?
I think that was the major thing that made them understand what I was trying to say to them. I'm a firm believer that letters can do something, memos can do something, the radio can do a lot. But nothing beats that personal contact.
Absolutely.
I spent a lot of time, Charles Askew, who worked in my office also, was instrumental in going out as a team with me at times to talk with students and to just inform students. You might remember too, back during those early years, they had what we call college days. You know, we have a college day or a time the students would come out and talk to representatives of all of our schools across the state. And this gave us an opportunity to get out and to let students know what we had to offer and to let them know how they needed to go about getting enrolled. And on 2 occasions, we even hosted the college day program here at the college, so I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. And then, how was Southern accreditation achieved?
All right, when we first got organized, we were a technical institute, and after being in operation for several years, we wanted to get accredited so that our courses would be transferable to other schools and so that we would have a status that was identified with an accreditation agency. So we started taking steps to get our school accredited. And even though she's deceased now, I must say, this is also for the record, Patsy. You might remember Peggy Cherry, who was our librarian at that time. And I think her family would be happy knowing this. She was a very hard worker when it came to doing things for this college. And she and I served as co-chairperson of the steering committee. We worked on the self-study. We looked at all of our departments. We wrote the Southern Association to get bulletins and guidelines and regulations to know how to go about doing a self-study. So when the team came in to evaluate us, everything was in place. Of course, you always get some recommendations from the team because they want to say, now, let's do this a little better. Kind of like an auditor, you know, the auditor always finds something. But I must say that Peggy deserves a lot of the credit that should be given to get this school accredited. And I might say even now we are accredited by Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, and we've always been accredited. Now you might know some schools sometimes after getting into trouble with their academic problems and whatnot, might be put on probation. But we've never been on probation. We've had some recommendations that we had to take care of, but we've never been discredited, I might say.
You know, that was a wonderful beginning for Martin Community College to make that transition from a technical school. What do you think about the recent news that was in the newspaper about Martin County's ranking, number 18, I think, with other community colleges?
I think that is very good. In fact, one thing I like to do, Pastor, is to look at the role of a community college, starting with the Technical Institute. And I just think that administrators at the community college level and throughout the educational system need to have a working knowledge of what the community college system is all about. And I think the more parents can learn, the more concerned citizens can learn, the more students can learn about the mission, the role of a community college, the better off they will be in terms of deciding what kind of education they need to be successful employees. Let me just say this, I think this is interesting about our system. The philosophy of the community college system says we take a student where he is or she and take them as far as they can go while enrolled. That says something special to me. Many times if a student comes into a school and cannot master, let's say, some of the basic courses, they drop out or they flunk out. The community college system is designed in such a way that we can offer classes, tutorial classes if need be. We can offer remediation if need be to get that student's academic background up to the level that he or she might be more successful with the more challenging courses.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Let's see. Now, you did a feasibility study, I recall, and it's part of the accreditation and a part of the transition.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, in looking at our need for the area, the thing that the administration did at the college, I might say Technical Institute College, because we were transferred,
right.
changed from the Technical Institute to the college level.
Right.
But the thing that we did on an ongoing basis was to look at educational needs of our Tri-County area. For example, at one time there was a question about offering nursing, about offering courses that we didn't have at the time. But before any community college or technical institute offers a course or a program, there's a need to do a feasibility study to determine the actual need for that course or program.
Right.
For example, nursing. We all know there's a need, an ongoing need for nursing. But when we look at our institution, we have to look at things that we're already offering and things the schools around us are offering.
Mm-hmm.
We have Pitt Community College, 25 miles away. We have, maybe 30 miles away. We have both Community College and also Edgecombe, just a few miles away. So the feasibility study and the impact study gave us the data that we needed to look at how we might expand our curriculum offerings without duplicating something that was offered in our backyard, so to speak, with another school, but yet meet the needs of the community by making this available. But the impact study really is important because if there's not a need for it, then it's a waste of time and money to try to offer something that people are not going to come and take. So that's why we felt the need to always do our homework before launching to a new particular program or course.
I understand that you did a lot of preparation for students to succeed at the community college. What about those who were wanting to transfer to another college after 2 years here?
All right. This is an interesting point, and it also gives us a real milestone in our history of the Technical Institute. When we first started, Pastor, we could offer only two types of courses, programs. We could offer vocational programs such as automotive mechanics, carpentry, bricklaying, 1-year type courses and programs. Mm-hmm. We could also offer 2-year technical programs such as business administration, secretarial science, and maybe office technology. We could not offer courses that would transfer toward a 4-year degree. And let me take a minute just to try to demonstrate what I see the system doing. As a technical institute, we could offer these two type programs. Vocational, which are 1 year for the most part, and technical, which are 2 years. But after looking at the needs for students who wanted to get a 4-year degree, it was a matter of going back to Raleigh State Board and getting approved to offer what we called at that time a general education program, which was a 1-year program that paralleled a 4-year program at a university. At that time, there was a big challenge, Pastor. We spent hours on the road going back and forth to 4-year schools, talking with administrators there to see if we could set up a program that would parallel the courses of the first year of a 4-year degree program. And this was a challenge, too, because a lot of the 4-year schools wanted to let us feel like, well, you can't offer this because you're not a college. We understood that. But it was a matter of saying to them on a very serious basis and in a very serious way from an academic standpoint. Now, if we can offer an English course with a description that parallels your English course, East Carolina, why can't we transfer these courses? If we can offer a math course in algebra that parallels your algebra course, why can't we transfer these courses? I might add too at this point, Pastor, that I had a need to serve on the state board, the joint state board, which consisted of 4-year school administrators and 2-year school administrators. And our mission there was to look at ways of saying to the 4-year schools, we can offer the first year of a 4-year degree program. So what did that do? That added to our course offerings a third dimension. We were offering vocational 1 year, technical 2 year. But for those who wanted to get a 4-year degree, we wanted that provision to let them come here for 1 year and then transfer. So, and to sum this up, I might say, we looked at the schools close by, the 4-year schools close by, East Carolina University. Some students said, I don't want to East Carolina, that's too large. So I worked jointly with Elizabeth City State University, East Carolina University, and NC State University. And this is interesting. Do you by chance know the principal out at Bellgrass School, Hal Davis?
Yes,
Hal Davis is from Janesville, and I'm using him because when he came here, he wanted to get a 4-year degree. And at that time, fortunately, we had been approved for our college transferable programs. He came here for 2 years after getting approved with that first year and then the second year, and transferred to state and got his BS degree and went on to get his master's degree. Now he's principal out at Barrett High School. I guess what I'm saying here is that a community college, number one, is designed to meet the needs of the community. I'm the first to say that a community has a variety of needs, and some of these needs go beyond just 1 or 2 year training. So what did we do? We did two things at a time there. We offered affordable education at the Technical Institute Community College level that was transferable to a 4-year school. And this, I think, meant a lot to a lot of people.
Absolutely. And you had the vision to continue raising the bar.
Exactly.
For both for the college and for the students to provide these services as well as the education. Tell us a little bit about the college transfer program.
Well, the college transfer program has several options, and let me just explain it this way. I like to let students know, and even parents know, or anybody who has an interest, know that when a student wants to get a 4-year degree, well, the first thing I like to know is what do you plan to major in at the 4-year school? Why? Because some programs require majors to start getting major courses as early as the second part of that second year. Mm-hmm. Let me give you an example. A student who wants to major in art or music cannot wait until that junior year to start getting required major courses.
Right.
So what did we do? We looked at the program that we wanted to offer and the options that we wanted to offer. And we were careful in the early goings to not overstep our bounds and get programs we could not offer the courses for. Mm-hmm. All right, but now what I did was this. If a student came in and wanted to, let's say, major in music, I would say, get a catalog from East Carolina or Mississippi State or NC State or maybe Federal, wherever, and look at that first year and then the second year. I would then say, take our catalog and look at what we offer during that first year and that second year. What I was trying to get a student to do at that time, what I helped the student to do, was to look at how these first 2 years were like and how they were different. And if a student wanted to come here and said, look, I just want to come to Martin, but I want to major in music, I would advise that student, I even had the high school counselors at the time working with me, to look at when students needed to transfer, why they needed to transfer, and what they needed to look at while they were here. This kept that student from taking courses that were not transferable and to transfer in such a way that he would spend no more than 4 years getting that 4-year degree. And the question that I hit is, I said that kind of fast, but I want to make sure I clear it up. Well, let me just make up one other point here too. We looked at some of the specific needs of the 4-year degree options here. So we decided that we have a lot of people wanting to major in elementary education. So we had college transfer with the elementary education option. Also the high school teaching option, and also social work. We sort of stayed away from those unique programs that required major courses coming in that sophomore year. All right?
Very good. Now, there was you served under more than one president at Martin Community College, and at times you were asked to serve as president. Tell us a little bit about those episodes.
This is interesting, Pastor. I say this with a little chuckle because each time the president left or got fired, for some reason, the board asked me to serve as interim president.
Right.
And you might remember we've had several presidents. In fact, I think we have had more presidents based on our size and age than any other one institution across the state. We had Dr. Hunt, Dr. Joe Carter, Dr. Ike Sutherland, and then we had the first lady in the system, Dr. Neil McLeod. Then we had Dr. Travis Martin, who is a Martin County native, who came back to Martin County to head the institution for several years. Following his leaving, Dr. Martin Nadelman came to the school. But to verify what was just said, each time a president left or was asked to resign, however you want to put that, I was asked to serve as interim president. And I served as interim president 3 times while I was working full-time here. And after I retired in September of 1991, I was asked to come back in 1999 and serve as interim president until Dr. Britt was hired. And that sort of shocked me. I couldn't understand, why after 8 years, the board would ask me to come back. But I felt really honored. I really felt honored because I felt like at that time the board members had confidence that I would come out and do the best I could to keep the school on track and to do the administrative thing that needed to be done to keep the school moving forward. So I really want to say thank you and essentially to the board members who saw a need to do that and who asked me to come back to do it. I really feel honored.
I believe they held you in high regard.
Well, I'll take the hope so.
Now, there's another interest after you retired from the community college system. You've been a giver back to the community as well, into his heritage, your heritage interests. And tell me a little bit about the E.J. Hayes Alumni Center.
All right, the E.J. Hayes Alumni Center was started back in 2004. And let me give you just a little bit of the history and I get into the particulars. As I said a few minutes ago, I finished E.J. Hayes high school myself. We have a large number of graduates here in Martin County, and they're spread all over the nation, really. We felt a need, as we look back at our heritage, look back at E.J. Hayes School, what it did for us as students there, to try in some way to preserve this facility. As I said, I finished back in 1958, and a lot of classes followed me. So a group of us, Earl Newsom, Milton Harris, Haywood Harris, Francis King, a number of us got together, John Falk, by the way, and discussed the idea of reclaiming, or I might say, leasing E.J. Hayes School. It was being used at one time by the Northeastern Regional Center, which you might know about as a regional educational center.
I'm familiar with that.
They were not using it at that time, so we felt the need to see what the possibility would be to lease this facility. So a group of us went down to the Board of Education and met with Dr. Daly and the Board of Education and asked about the possibility of leasing the E.J. Hayes School. And after several meetings and after several conferences with the board and with their attorney, we were successful in leasing this school. At that time, we were trying to get the longest period of time that we could get in order to bring it up to standards and to make it a usable facility. So, in 2004, we were able to get this process started, and we were successful in leasing the school 2 years later, and we have it leased now for 10 years. But let me just give you the breakdown of how that works.
Please do.
We were asked by the Board of Education how we planned to use the center and what we wanted to use it for, and how much time we would need to do the thing we wanted to do. We could not buy it, we didn't have enough money to buy the facility, so we decided to go with the lease. We have a 10-year lease with the first 3 years to be used to bring the building up to standards. What we've done in doing the first 3 years is to contact contractors, to contact former students, to get local people to look at the needs. We connected this with our local building inspector, Mr. Griffin, who is our county building inspector. And we went in the building and looked at all the needs there. The electrical wiring, let's say, was substandard. We didn't have handicap ramps. We did not have handicap stalls in our bathroom. Just a number of things. So we have 10 items on a mandated list of things we need to do. And we're working on those now. So to speak somewhat specifically here, I'd like to say that we're looking at using our first 3 years, which will end in March of 2009, to bring the facility up to usable standards and to start our programs. Now, if you like, I'd like to just address how we plan to use the facility.
Oh, I'd love for you to.
All right.
Tell me about it.
We are looking at a threefold goal here, threefold objective. We want to work jointly with the Board of Education and public school personnel to address the need for tutorial classes. Having taught myself for a number of years, I know that there are times when students don't get all they need to get in the classroom of our public schools. After school, sometimes they have a need to go and get some additional training.
One-on-one?
So we're looking at working with public school personnel and offering tutorial classes after school for those students who need extra work in their classes. English, math, social studies, etc.
Test taking.
Right.
Test taking skills.
Exactly. This is an area I think that can do a lot of good in helping students to prepare for the challenges. And this is one of the things we'll be looking at as we look at meeting the needs of these students. Secondly, we're looking at working jointly with the community college. We still need, as we look at our adults, our senior citizens in the area, to offer enrichment type courses. When you look at a community college, we have a role here to give something back to our community. So we're looking at offering courses such as flower arranging, cake decorating, Old Testament, New Testament, photography, mind you. And we're looking at things that people can do to enrich their lives. We get people to come from the community to teach classes of them. Mr. Frank Dew, for example, from Robinsonville, has come out on numerous occasions to teach, let's say, photography courses. What this does, in my opinion, Patsy, is to help the institution to live up to its mission and to give something back. The name, I think, implies that, community college.
Yes.
You give something back to the community. Mm-hmm. All right, that's two things. Thirdly, we're looking at offering, providing services that will include panel discussions, forums, and community seminars to bring in, let's say, consultants to address contemporary issues that students need to know about and people need to know about. Example, I was talking just the other day with the lady who was thinking about doing a will. Had no idea in the world what a will was all about, how you go about preparing it. I was talking with someone just not too long ago about credit cards, the things that people just need to know about. What I want to see us do and what we're looking at now as the board are things that can be addressed to give adults and community citizens a chance to ask questions and to learn about things such as credit cards, law, legal things, law for the layman, enrichment courses, just a number of things that we feel will help the community to grow and to benefit from the community college and also from the E.J. Hayes Alumni Association. So to sum it up, we're looking at 3 objectives here: to help the public school students through the Board of Education, community college students through the community college, Barton Community College and its personnel, and the community citizens in general by working with community groups in providing panel discussions and forums.
So this atmosphere at E.J. Hayes Center is going to be a warm, respected, accepted environment so that if I go in with a dumb question, nobody's going to laugh.
Exactly.
So I'm going to be friendly and comfortable in this learning setting.
Exactly right.
And you'll have professionals brought in and teachers brought in,
Exactly.
attorneys brought in.
Mm-hmm. And this is interesting right here, Patsy, because we've done just a general informal survey. And I have found that within our membership, we have a variety of graduates with a variety of skills. We have attorneys, we have nurses. In fact, on our board, Cecile Sanders, for example, down in Janesville, has 2 degrees in nursing. We have attorneys. We have people in music, in art. So what we're planning to do through our program committee is to offer programs and services that can in a sense be coordinated and sponsored by Hayes graduates.
Right. And they'll do this pro bono.
Exactly right, exactly right.
That's just wonderful. I declare you certainly have covered it well. And you have set up a network across the country. Tell us a little bit about your alumni network.
We are looking at letting our association here serve as the national body of the E.J. Hayes Alumni Association. We have, Patsy, graduates from Florida to Maine, from New York to California. What I'm saying is, we have Hayes graduates all over the nation. And we're in the process now through our membership committee of setting up alumni chapters throughout the nation. What this will do is to encourage, inspire, and to assist former Hayes School students in becoming affiliated with the E.J. Hayes Alumni Association. As I said earlier, this is a historical site for us. It is not, it's not what I would call officially done, but we are a Rosenwald school, and we are hoping that as our former graduates, our former students, I might say, learn what this means to our heritage, to our county, to our community, that they too want to become a part of the E.J. Hayes Alumni Association. So then we're going to really look at setting up alumni chapters in all the states that we have students living in. And this will do several things. It'll broaden our base in terms of membership. It will also give us a chance to let them provide some funding to help us keep moving. We've done several things, Pat, since we have been organized. We've done, as you might see here, a calendar. This is the first one here. This is what we have called a Black History Calendar. What we did here was to give the history of E.J. Hayes School. That's the first principal, by the way, Mr. E.J. Hayes.
Absolutely.
And he is the person for whom the school was named.
He looks like a no-nonsense fellow.
He didn't bear any food. He would spank you. Back then he could apply to the Board of Education. He applied it several times. And this was the second principal who followed him, Mr. W.A. Holmes. And this information package, this calendar gives a lot of history regarding people who worked there, their names, biographical sketches on them. Just give one or two. Mrs. N.C. Slade, Nora Cherry Slade, taught me while I was there.
Is she pretty?
All right, she had kind of silverish looking hair. I always thought that she was just a very attractive lady.
Pretty.
Yes, indeed. This is Miss A.D. Gaither. Now I must say, in her grave, Miss Gaither, she's the one who made me learn English. She made me learn to pronounce my words effectively. Exactly. And I give her credit for a lot of my background in English and also in education in general. Ms. Chance, who taught home economics, and Mr. Broadnax, and the list goes on. Now this first calendar here was done to highlight the early employees at the school. This year we have done another calendar, and this was kind of interesting here. Now I don't know how to do it because I've included in this one myself.
Well, we just do it.
No, we sat down with the board and decided to look at ways of addressing some of the things that would make it interesting to former students. So we got 12 former Hayes School graduates who finished Hayes and came back to teach at Hayes. And you see, S.A. Outerbridge.
Yes.
Outerbridge was the principal or assistant principal at Williamson High School. Prior to that, he taught social science at E.J. Hayes School. He's a graduate and also a former teacher. Right here, for example, Wilma Corden James from Janesville, who finished Hayes and came back to teach. I'm sure you know him. This is Hayward Harris.
Yeah.
Former director of the Martin County Community Action.
Yes.
Hayward Harris. Retired now, but he finished Hayes and came back there to work. This is Evangeline Williams, who lives in Richmond, who came back and worked. She lived in Richmond, and she went out in Kentucky, by the way, and stayed for a while. And she wrote several books while she was out there, and she's now retired, living in Richmond. This is T.R. Robertson, lives right there on Wildcat Road. He taught, I think, in English and French at the high school, and also at Wilson High. This is Eula Mariner Scott from down there. Milton Harris, Walter Harris. We know Walter Milton Harris. You might know him.
Yeah, I know him. He was my principal.
Oh, is that right? Okay. And what you notice here is, I don't know if this was a good thing or not, we included a picture of the before and the after.
Okay.
The growing up picture and then the way the person looks now.
That's Mr. Harris now?
That's Mr. Harris right there.
I haven't seen him in a while.
All right. Now this is
Oh, that's our buddy here, the good man.
But we thought this was an interesting way to share with our former students and with graduates, and even with parents and friends of the high school, something that would be more or less a keepsake. And I might say that this was a fundraiser too, Pat. This was a matter of getting students to be a part of a fundraiser. These are sold for $10 each, and we still have some of both on hand. This is being sold now for $5. Why cost? Because this is a collector's item.
Absolutely.
And we don't mind people knowing that these things are available, and not just history on E.J. Hayes School, but history on others who have contributed to this process and who are part of the history of E.J. Hayes School. Now, just one other reminder while we're talking. Each year, we have what we call our annual meeting in September of each year. At that time, we have a special meeting to do two things, to elect officers and to inform the membership of things we've done during that year. And this is a copy of our last souvenir journal. This is another fundraiser. And I think this was a good, productive effort because it gave our local businesses a chance to participate by buying ads.
Yes.
For example, most of the churches participated. I went out to Shaw University. I'm talking Shaw's Barbecue. I get it right in a minute.
I got
I went out to Shaw's Barbecue. And you might know Ricky Robinson out there, who gave us a nice ad in here.
Merchants look forward to that September homecoming.
Exactly right.
Prayer.
We have breakfast. We give them breakfast. We also have dinner. We also go down to Memorial Park and have some things going on down there. And it's just a good way
It
of
embraces the heritage
Exactly.
so well.
Exactly right. And it shows, too, that the community is a part of what we're doing. And I was just trying to get to, look right here. This is an ad from Mark Community College, by the way.
Yes.
And, you know, I feel at home when I go to Hayes Alumni Center and come out to Mark Community College. Why? Because I spent my entire life, Patsy, working at Hayes School and Mark Community College. Only two places in my work history I worked. And this is an ad that the college gave us to go in our bulletin here. I thought it was very thoughtful.
You're a very giving man.
I try real hard to do that and to be, by the way, the Piggly Wiggly.
Oh,
The
okay.
store down the street, by the way.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying here, in a sense, is that we want to be visible. We want to make a contribution. We want people who know us to see what our worth is and want to be a part of us.
You know, you told me a little bit about you had written 2 books. Can you? Can we?
I'm in the process of writing. I have 2 on the drawing board now
At the same time.
at the same time.
Well, we're gonna wind up with this if we can.
All right. For several years doing the Black History program at the college, Patsy, we gave programs to highlight the contributions of blacks in Martin County. That inspired me to want to write a book giving the history of many of the blacks who have done things in Martin County. And some of them were the first to do certain things. I have compiled just a lot of history on some of the things that have been done by blacks that are not recorded in the history books. You might remember there was a library on Pearl Street, I believe, in Williamston.
Yes.
Mrs. Gray headed the library, and she had much in that library that I think would say what some of the blacks had done. But that does not give a complete history. So what I've done is to look at some of the history of the county that has not been recorded. And my book is going to show throughout the county what has been done. They might remember a gentleman by the name of Mr. Buster Barber several years back. He's deceased now. He wrote a book, but he is involved only in the churches in Martin County. What I've done in this book is to look at each community. I looked at the little town, Hassel, Oak City, Robertsonville, Janesville, and all of the areas in Martin County, and I've addressed each one to let it have its own identity while writing. For example, in Janesville, let's say a place called Darden, that had its own community build-up that was in a sense somewhat isolated from the community in general. They had their own store. They had their own midwives. They didn't go to the hospital for their children to be born. There were 3 midwives, for example. And this is interesting history some of the people do not know about. We had a man, Mr. Jim Rogers, for example, who had an old grist mill. He was the first black in the county to actually convert corn into meal. And he used the tolling system, I think. He'd take him 100 pounds of corn, he'd grind it up and give you 50 pounds, he'd keep 50 pounds, that kind of thing.
Let me ask you about
Sure.
the sheet metal man in back of Wachovia Bank. He had some sheet metal shop where he built those tobacco flues.
All right.
Do you know about that?
I'm aware of the history of that, yes.
I'll tell you, it was brought up by Vernon Godwin, who was our first oral history participant, and he later said, you know, I forgot to tell you about that sheet metal work. So maybe you can expand on that
I'll
story.
explore that. Now, we did have at that time a Mr. Joe Peel, who was a blacksmith. And Mrs. Lillian Peel had a store in the corner of Peel Street and Washington Street. You might remember that.
Yes.
And he was the first to have an old, crude-looking blacksmith shop. And many of the farmers and many of the people in the community throughout the county had wagon wheels and cart wheels and these kinds of things. sometimes they would break or come off or just disintegrate. And he would take those wheels, I don't know how he really did it sometimes, he could take those wheels and weld them back together and put them back on those wooden foundations and they start riding again. And just one other example, my grandfather, for example, used to work with molasses mills. Had an old molasses mill. And what he would do is raise sugar cane during the year and actually go out in the spring or late spring and break off all the leaves. And we had to take the stalks up to the barn. And we let that old mule walk round and round and round and squeeze the juice out of the sugar cane stalks into a vat. And that vat would, of course, hold the sugar cane. And with the fire on it, would drive the water out and get it a little bit darker, a little darker. We ate molasses year round sometimes. Back then we had those little hog killings past, and we'd have molasses ham year round.
Hog killings were fun times.
They really, really were. Now the second book I'm looking at, and I hope to address this during the next year. I hope to do a lot of progress on the second one. Now this is going to hit some people wrong, especially those who may be convinced that we're doing all the right things in education. It's going to be entitled Missing Links in Public School Education. My final goal is to write that book to address what I consider to be some of the needs in education that are not being met. I'm not going to be critical here. I'm just going to point out some things that I don't think students are getting. For example, when I was in school, when you were in school, I had to learn to write by using complete sentences. I had to learn the diacritical mark. I had to learn phonics. I had to learn to use the dictionary. I had to learn to communicate effectively. And in some instances now, as I look at athletes who win games and get interviewed, cannot make a complete sentence sometimes to really communicate effectively. And I think there's some things also in some of the courses in our public schools. Math, for example. Students are almost forgetting how to do what I want to call basic math. I was in the grocery store just the other day, and I gave I think my bill came to something like $19.22. And I gave the girl a $20 bill and 22 cents, and she was kind of baffled for a little while. Not being critical, but I'm saying that I think some of the basic things, I think we referred to back then, you might remember better than I, the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic.
Yes.
I think we need to go beyond just that basic concept there. But I just see so many basic things that kids are not getting. And I don't want to think that we're focusing so much on tests at times that we're getting away from teaching the student, not teaching the test. So what I want to do in this second book is to address what I consider to be, well, in a positive way, as I said, some of the missing links in public school education. And I hope that as people read some of the things that I'll be addressing, and as they look at some of the things that I consider to be things to help develop the whole child, that they will join me in feeling that this is a need that might be touched on in at least a modified way even now. Now this might touch somebody kind of wrong too, but when I was in school, I don't know if you did this or not, but I felt that there was a lot of growth that took place based on what happened in the public school. When I got to school in the morning, I had to help sing 2 songs. I couldn't sing, but I joined the class and sang.
Absolutely.
We'd sing 2 songs. Maybe at Christmas time we might sing Silent Night and Joy to the World. We'd say maybe a Bible verse. We would pledge allegiance to the flag.
God bless America.
Exactly. And at that time, Patsy, I felt like my classmates were my sisters and brothers.
Right.
We felt like a big family.
Mm-hmm.
We felt like we had to care for each other in a sense.
Yes.
And it was a matter of getting to know my classmates and my schoolmates and being just one big family. And my teacher thought, I remember her fan club, if I needed a spanking, she didn't hesitate to do it. And when she told my dad, I got another one to follow up on the first one. But the point is, I just feel like the old school didn't do everything that needed to be done, but it did a lot to develop the whole child. And I just think that some of the values that were established back then, some of the appreciations that were instilled in students back then could very well find their rightful places in the minds of students during this day and time.
And your parents were also part of that education.
Exactly. They were the first influences in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Clarence, I would like to conclude this by asking you, what would you hope your legacy to be?
I would like but for my legacy to say, without words, what I was that I tried to do in Martin County. I sometimes look at a funeral program, Patsy, and I look at what's on a funeral program. And I've seen on the funeral program so often, you know, I'm just making a note here. You see on the funeral program, maybe 1925, 2008. That says the person was born in 1925 and passed away in 2008. These two dates, to me, don't mean a great deal.
Bookends.
Bookend, right, exactly, bookend. But there's a poem that highlights this too, Patsy. The dash. The dash is that little line between the birth date and the death date. I want my dash to say to those who read my obituary, and those who will look at what I consider to be my worth and my interest in giving back, that I did try to give something back. You know, I'm thinking what Martin Luther King said once. I met him up in Greenport once. And he said, don't tell them that I had several degrees. That's not important. Don't let them know that I spoke thus and so many times. That's not important. The Nobel Peace Prize doesn't excite me. You know, whether anybody knows that I have a master's degree doesn't matter to me. I want them to know that I rode down the dusty roads in Bertie County. I went down Darden. I went out in Bagrass to recruit students to come to Martin and work with them to get a degree, to give something back. When I look down James, for example, I don't mean this except to just make my point. I taught the dentist down James with Dr. Terry Wallace, one of my former students. And when I go down there, I can look and see what I consider to be part of an effort that I feel is a part of me, emerging from a man who really cares. That's what I want to be part of my legacy. Don't look at me, look at the result of what I've done.
You've been so much a part of all these people's lives, including our community. And I'd like to thank you, Clarence, for being with us today, and much success to you with the E.J. Hayes Alumni Center.
Thank you so much for having me join you. I really enjoyed it. And,
have we had a good time?
I must say I've enjoyed it. And I just want to thank you for inviting me in and for just being a part of what I feel to be a need that Martin County really has.
We want to warm the spirit, and I believe we've done that.
Thank you so very much. I did practice teaching under me back in '66, I think it was. But anyway, I just have a variety of speeches that I've done over the years, and that's what I want to say is, after, and of course, and everybody was typing, I'm typing myself, I'm trying to get the lights so I can get over my, it was a joke.
Yeah, that warmed them up a little bit.
He did that. Strike out. The baseball player gets 3 swings. I've had mine already.
I declare I forgot to turn on my cell phone because I went.
Get these pictures superimposed when you're flipping through it there.
I would like to invite you to, when you have your books published, to. I've never seen one because I don't know how to operate the DVD.
I think that this is the day you might want to put that in that same file. With English teacher at Hayes, I went and got her to teach the class for us, and I had 15 students to take that class. And Frank came out and taught some photography class. Right? I took his class myself one time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the point I'm making is, it takes. Now
I got to come. I'll come back and pick up this photography.
I'll come back.
Where are you?
Right now, continue the case. Don't part right here. I'll be back in 5 minutes.
All right.
Back in 5 minutes.